Hey Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are joined by Dark Arps. Welcome
Uh,
aboard, buddy.
Hi guys.
Hey, Dark Arps, how's it going?
Hello.
Also known as John. Welcome to the show,
That's
buddy.
right.
Thanks for coming on board.
I'm very happy to have been asked to come on board. How
Uh,
flattering.
we're super glad you're here. I'm going to kick straight off with what got you into electronic music and music production in general. Like,
What got me into it? Well, okay,
yeah,
so
what really was your first sort of experiences? Sorry, that got kind of like sent you on this journey on
sure.
electronic.
So my first actual real world actually doing something with electronic music was probably in 1997. I mean, bear in mind that, of course, as I mentioned before we started this proper interview or whatever this is, like having lived in the UK since 93 and then grown up around this incredible
Era.
explosion of electronic dance music that was also charting. It was like, and you'd get these instrumental tracks that had no vocals and they would make it in the top 10 and shit like that. So
Yes.
and obviously Snap and CNC Music Factory and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's the kind of backbone of me being interested in electronic music, plus a whole bunch of other things. But then in 97, I had like a dorm mate who had a computer, and he had this program called Magix with an X, Music Maker, Magix Music Maker.
Okay.
Very rudimentary sequencing program, and like I knocked together a beat on that and basically was hooked. And the school that I went to had, you know, a little music production suite with a few computers, and they had Logic version 4 or 3, I think it was then. I think it was 4. Logic 4. So I first started using Logic 4 in 97.
Wow, so quite a while ago.
And
Quite a
then,
while ago.
and then, you know,
Yeah.
and then 4 years happened.
That was like I got a CD called EJ. What's it called?
EJ.
Used to get it a CD in the cereal.
Dance EJ.
Yes.
Right? Dance E.
I remember that as well, actually.
I do remember. I think you could get that on the magazine, on the Computer Music magazine.
That was right. It was given away on the front of the magazine, right?
Yep.
Or in a
print
or in
media.
Print media, yeah.
Print
Jesus.
media.
And that was yeah, I remember you could get it in a cereal box as well.
You're not joking. Is that true? You could actually get that program in,
I remember
cereal boxes.
It was on the front of like a Shreddies or something like that. You're like, wow, I've got my own EJ CD.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, this shit has been bubbling away for a really long time, obviously.
But how times have changed. Look, like we're laughing here talking about a CD-ROM stuck to the front of cereal box, and in reality, it wasn't that long ago, was it?
Depends on depends on how old you are right now.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So how did Dark? Sorry, John, go on.
No, I don't think I had anything good.
How did Dark Arps come about?
You mean the name,
The
act, specifically the name?
Oh,
Okay.
name and act. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so in order to answer that, I have to kind of like rapidly fill in 10 years. And the simplest way to put that is that I was in a band. It was called Kiretsu, and we were this like 10-piece or sometimes 11 or occasionally like 13-piece
Wow.
live drum and bass breaks techno house orchestra.
Wow.
Like most of the musicians were actual real musicians who played real instruments,
Mm-hmm.
and those instruments varied quite broadly, but ostensibly, you know, drums, bass, guitar, like 3-piece horn section that might be a trumpet, tenor, or alto, sax. Then we had a guy on didgeridoo, and he also did percussion. We had an MC, you know, like a UK MC. We had a female vocalist. We had violins. We had like a whole fucking ton of shit. But we were basically like a dance band. And we would play like 176 BPM live drum and bass. And it was...
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's cool.
Sorry to stop your flow there, but I would love to hear some of that. Is there any of it actually out there? Or
Yeah, I mean, we don't really exist on the internet anymore. And this is something else we're probably going to talk about, which is promoting yourself on the internet and existing online as an artist. And I am like the worst at it. So I can send you just a Google Drive of some shit that you can check out.
Yeah, could we link your name to it, or your
even better? You could post it if you wanted to. You could literally do anything you want with this shit.
Absolutely.
And some of it's fucking terrible. Some of it's like live recordings, because like our live shows were unreal.
I bet.
And I'm not exaggerating here. We were the fucking best band on the planet. Like, we were just awesome. And the gigs we had in this the venues that we played, they were like small to medium size venues, but it would just go off, like every time go off so hard. So like we have some live recordings and we have some studio recordings that, you know, I produced, or with some of the other guys that were also doing it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear some of
that. So I'll send that shit to you. It's
yeah.
I mean, I'm super proud of it. And it was like a really, really important part of my musical development, because these guys were way, way more talented musicians than me. I don't really play very well anything. But I'm good with the tech, and I can like program the rhythms, and I can program the melodies, and I can hear it in my head. I just can't like do it with my fingers. Whereas those guys were all about that, and they were properly trained. And and then I had this other outfit that I was in called Beamer Grand, which was, I'll tell you about that another time, because it's just a whole other mouthful. But anyway, the point of that, to answer your initial question, was that the drummer in this band, Karetsu, a guy called Rich Jackson, Isotone, he's a PhD in nanotechnology. Like, the guy's a fucking genius. He's working in like 3D printing currently for like road building. It's pretty nuts. Anyway, he was the drummer in this band with me, and he and I, after Karetsu finally died, which it did in about 2008, he and I did a little duo together. And this was really just about a year before I decided to leave the UK and come to Canada. And we were called the Dark Arps. And it was him on like electronic drum kit, but we programmed samples and sounds and effects and shit. So it wasn't like he was playing drums sounds. He was playing like anything sounds.
Yeah.
Hitting shit with sticks, and then like controllers and stuff. And then I had, what was I using? I think at the time I was using Ableton Live and MIDI controller, pre-prepared beats possibly. And I had a Access Virus, the mini one, the Snow.
Okay.
And so I'd be like sending MIDI patterns to the Snow, and then like modulating and opening up filters and shit and firing scenes. And we had a little live PA, me and Rich, and we played 3 gigs, I think, and before I decided to leave. So when I came to Canada, I just dropped the and just called it Dark Arps.
Is he still doing anything?
He's DJing actually. Yeah. He does a regular Twitch feed to about 4 people.
That's like 3 more than me then.
Yeah, I mean, that's only about 4 less than me. And I mean, out of the 2 of us, I'm certainly the one that's sort of been trying harder, shall we say, at producing, being an electronic musician. He hasn't really produced any tracks for a very long time. But I mean, I just remember when he first started doing it, like the very first track he made was like fucking tons better than anything I had made. And I was like, fuck you, cunt. You know, like I had been going for about 2 or 3 years before he did his first track, and I heard his first track. I was like, actually, that is way better than, it was certainly more slamming, you know, like it was like punching way harder.
Yeah.
It didn't really have much melodic substance to it, but he would admit that. So
yeah. I guess talking about like thumping tracks and you know, banging tunes. Do you remember? Probably was back in the UK, I'm sure. What was your first clubbing experience?
Oh, cool.
Or rave, clubbing or rave?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was, when you say clubbing rave, we're basically meaning like a fuck ton of people throng, that big,
like a good venue,
that big scale environment. That would have been at the Q Club in Birmingham in 1998, maybe 98-ish. You know, the usual suspects: Marky, Kenny Ken, Fabio Groove Rider.
Fabio Groove Rider.
Let's see. Maybe those guys weren't there. Andy C played. Skippity, like just that whole one of those fucking massive UK drum and bass raves.
What about a first experience, be it large or small? Do you remember the first time you went to something that you were like, wow, this is it, this is a club, this is a scene? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think that would be it.
Yeah, really.
In terms of, because everything else that I'd experienced before that point had been at like Durham University. You know, there's like these little clubs,
crews putting on
there was
self
this,
parties almost.
Yeah, exactly. It was like house party stuff. So, you know, I'd had a few experiences then. I'm trying to remember when I did my first pill. It was probably at the Q Club in Birmingham with this particular group of friends that I really liked, and I was not cool at school. I did not have friends. And then all of a sudden at uni, people aren't horrible. And so all of a sudden I had these cool friends that like cool music, and I was learning about cool music through them, and they were inviting me to I'm going to hang out with them.
And the Q Club definitely was a big player back in the day there.
I think so.
For sure. They put on some big shows. They were definitely...
Honestly, I really haven't done a lot of that though. That's the shame of it. You know, I haven't done very much.
I don't think that's important to be a producer, but you know, I mean, me personally, I did probably too much.
Is there such a thing?
Yeah, because I literally grew up in, you know, that point of time. I went to my first one in like 89, 90.
Right. Oh fuck me! How old are you?
I'm actually 46 right now, mate.
Oh, you're spring chicken. Look at this.
So I was lucky, and again, being in the southwest of England, that's where a lot of these parties and things really kicked off. I wasn't far from Glastonbury, like we talked about, where you know.
Yeah. Sadly, I never went to Glastonbury Music.
Oh, I went when you could still get in for free and just climb the
hopping the fence.
Yeah, you know,
someone to throw you over.
Yeah. I went I once went in. I couldn't get over the fence, and I found a guy that had media passes, and he was stood at the gate, and he saw me, and he's like, "Oh, you looking to get in, bud?" I was like, yeah. And he's like, "Okay, £10 each." There was 4 of us. And I was like, "Okay, £40." He's like, yeah.
Reasonable.
And he's like, here's a news pass. And he gave me my pass, and I looked at it, and I was Hilda Ogden. And someone else, it was all characters from Coronation Street. And I looked at him, I was like, "Mate, it says Hilda Ogden." He's like, "Yeah, I know. I couldn't think of any good names, so I just was watching Coronation Street." And I was like, I got in, though.
Oh, man, of course you did. Of course you did.
Right?
God,
the good
those
days.
were the days, hey?
The good days, mate. Yeah.
So a lot of drum and bass was the start of what you started liking then, John.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't actually like techno until about 2006. I didn't get it. I was all about techno and breaks. Broken beat. I mean, you know, to be fair, obviously I had been exposed to plenty of 4/4 music before that point and did like it. But in terms of like the kinds of events that I would go to and dance for, it was drum and bass. We had like, have you heard of John B? You must know John B, right? The drum and bass producer.
Me personally, I don't.
No, you never heard of him?
No.
I mean, he's a very well-known and highly respected, but also quite controversial figure in drum and bass. Okay. You'll have, I mean, if you know even a little bit about John B with an H, J-O-H and B, like look up Blandwagon Poos.
Okay.
I mean, and then research the story behind Blandwagon Poos. Just look it up.
I will.
Blandwagon. Okay, this is an important story in drum and bass that you need to know about. Anyway, John B went to Durham, and he was a few years above me, and so he had this weekly event called Substance. Yeah, and it was at you know the one of the 2 nightclubs that existed in Durham, and like he was booking all the biggest names in drum and bass at the time, like all of them. I don't think maybe Andy C came, but like all of the rest of them would have done at least one gig there. Anyway, so because of that, that's how I met these boys in Karetsu, and you know that's kind of like how all that started. So yeah, it was all drum and bass for me, and then and then pretty soon a whole bunch of other shit happened, and breaks was a thing. Adam Freeland, Marine Parade, New School Breaks, early 2000s, and then also Hybrid. Have you heard of Hybrid? The Welsh progressive techno or progressive trance production outfit. Like they are God to me.
Really?
Yeah, not anymore. They've changed, and it's not even the same lineup of guys anymore. But their first album called Wide Angle, hybrid wide angle, is literally the most important album in my whole life.
Okay.
It's and you got to understand that this was made in 98, 97, 98, and it completely blew everything wide open for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, sadly, I only ever got to see Hybrid play once. It was a DJ set. I was only one of them. It was one of those things where it was like, you know, hybrid, but it was really only one of the dudes because the other dude was somewhere else playing the set as well.
Yeah.
That was a Glade.
I think we've all been to a gig like that.
Yes, I think we have. Yeah. It's just for me, it was like, yeah, I finally get to see Hybrid, and like, there's just this one guy up there, and I'm like, hold on a minute, and I was so fucked up that time. Oh my god, wow, I have not been that high, maybe ever, actually. Yeah, it was. To be honest, it was sloppy. It was pretty sloppy, but
good time though.
2005. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good, I can't remember it.
I started off listening to drum and bass, man. That's because, you know, from the area that I was from in the UK, it was, you know, it was a rough area, and all we had was drum and bass. And you know, we got the likes of MCs like Funtstar, Slipmat, and you know, we've got quite a few big artists in our local area, and that was huge for our local area.
Whereabouts in the UK are you from?
I'm from Kent.
Okay,
yeah. Then it was massive. It was good, but that's what we could listen to. But I'm into techno now, so it's kind of a similar sort of journey you sort of did, but not as hardcore.
Who's more hardcore? I'm not hardcore, man. There's nothing hardcore about me. Seriously.
So, what sort of favorite artists have inspired you to, you know, like, I know you mentioned obviously a few, but to produce as well.
To actually produce the music.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really say. I mean, I can just mention other artists that had an impact on me or that I remember a lot. I remember when I first heard Trent Mahler, I was particularly astounded. And he was, in that sound and that production quality was something that I wanted to aspire to.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been in mid 2000s.
And was that after you'd started playing around yourself? Yeah, if it was mid 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it since '97.
Yeah,
right. From '98, I was in that band. Well, '99, I guess, I was in that band Karetsu, and then we were gigging a lot. So yeah, it was like a lot of live gigs, and I would DJ a little bit, but it was not about really. I don't call myself a DJ. I certainly do DJ, but I'm not a DJ. I'm a producer. So fuck, I lost my thread. You know, other acts that inspired me to make the electronic music. I mean, obviously there's some obvious ones like The Prodigy.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
That's so much of is that so much like deeper cultural background thing though, you know what I mean? It's like to be inspired by The Prodigy is a bit like, well, yeah, duh. You know
still,
what I mean?
I mean, to be fair though, I'm a very big fan of The Prodigy because I'm from that. I actually saw them at the Eclipse in Coventry before they'd been signed to a label. I think like they were just breaking out, and I honestly believe he is one of the best kind of electric producers. He's up there, man. Liam, he's a genius.
Sure.
He is an absolute genius. And some of his tracks, they're kind of the same and he uses the same stuff, but they're always so well produced. I am a big fan. I'll never poo-poo The Prodigy ever.
Oh, who the fuck? What kind of an asshole would do that?
Right? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they were there. They were literally leaders in some of the sounds that some guys now aspire to do. You know what I mean?
Which is why I said that it's kind of almost like.
Yeah, it's almost like saying Goldie for drum and bass, because same thing for me. Goldie, I listened to all of his older stuff, and he did come up with some
timeless,
unique. Yes, mate. You know what I mean?
Of course, the thing is, okay, but when I was, you know, growing up in the UK, or you know, when I was in my 20s, and people would talk about Goldie's timeless. I mean, and you know how like cuntish British people are.
we do have a tendency to be a little bit that way.
A little bit cunty. Is it okay to swear on your show? I've already done it. Like,
we can edit. We can edit and whatever.
No, I'll put explicit lyrics on it.
There we go.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, so apparently, you know, Goldie can't do shit in the studio. He's rubbish. It's all about Rob Playford.
Okay.
So Goldie's in the studio with Rob Playford. I think I've got that right. Maybe I've got that name wrong, but he basically had a studio bitch that like
did his work,
executed on all his musical ideas for him. that was the
Gotcha.
story anyway, right?
Still great tracks though.
And the point is, it's like, you know, but it raises an interesting question. And of course, you know, none of us were actually there in the room with them, so we don't really know how much who did what.
Who actually did that? Yes.
You know, but it raises interesting questions about, I know, the difference between the artistic side of electronic music creation and the technical side of it, and like it's a perfect combination of two disciplines, artistic and technical.
Yeah.
In order to be good at it, like to be considered good at this, you have to, I think, have some good artistic ideas.
Yes.
But if you can't execute on them technically, then you suck.
He's very much into his art, isn't he? And his graffiti and stuff, Goldie, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah, very much into.
I mean, I'm not to say that I'm not a Goldie fan, but I don't keep up with what he's doing, really. Like, I don't know a lot about what's going on with Goldie. I see a few videos.
I don't know if how much he's doing right now, but his original roots were actually graffiti. He's in some of the old, if you actually went back and looked, there's 2 magazines called Spray Can Art and Subway Art. They were released back in the 80s, and some of his old graffiti is featured in those 2, and they're iconic books. They're like books, if you got them in your collection, then you definitely know about writing and graph. And Goldie was a major player in the English scene. He was way more involved in graph before he got into music. Yeah, he wasn't
so cool.
He wasn't a producer before he did graph. Yeah. No.
And to, you know, and to be fair, that is that's a really legit place to come from as a musician, actually, because that kind of, like, the art and the music go together.
I totally agree, and like you said, I think you need both. But like you said, though, if you've got the artistic ideas but you can't actually do it, and if that is the case, then I get what you're saying, 100%. Right? Yeah. So let's get back to you, though. Forget about Goldie. What do you feel personally defines your sound as an artist? You know, what do you feel?
Well, writing bios is annoying, but I've written a few, and one thing that I often come back to is dark and optimistic, like, is that the right word? Yeah. You know, sort of darkly optimistic, intrepid, like the vibe that I'm trying to convey with the music that I make. Okay, for one, it has to be groovy and dancey as fuck, always.
Yeah.
It literally is. I mean, unless I'm making ambient, and I have done some ambient music, I actually don't know what you know about what I've done. I have no idea why you called me or how you found me, because I'm obscure. But anyway, so yeah, dark and optimistic, but groovy as fuck. It has to be like very, very danceable. And I think I've got that. You know, I understand how to make a tight beat and use a bit of shuffle and like just put a bit of like oomph into the groove. But like the melodic side of things and the chord progressions and whatever, and the overall tone that I'm trying to create, like I'm trying to create something that feels slightly scary but also positive.
Slightly scary but positive. I like that.
I to be honest, Joe, I got hold of you because, you know, I'm a music geek by far, and I saw your setup, and I saw that
we saw your
live streams. Is it?
Well, it was Brad sent me a link for your Instagram, and it was.
I hardly use my Instagram though.
But it was all the photographs of your synths, and we're both geeks, and we were just like, look at this guy.
I should really use this. I should use it more. I'm sure we're going to talk about social media in a bit, because I'll tell you what, that's something I need fucking help with. But you know, I hardly ever use my Instagram, like hardly ever. I just don't remember to. There's too much. Much to do.
I've got to admit, I'm not big on it. Brad's way more involved in this side. I'm too old. I'm like, I do things here and there, but I'm not as up as some people are.
There's just too much. There are too many different platforms. There's too much to do.
And that's almost, we might as well just talk about it now. The whole, you know, promoting yourself on social media.
What were we talking about before, though? I kind of felt like I wanted to talk about that.
We were talking about defining your sound. What defines your sound?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess I've and then Brad mentioned the gear. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So like highly technical, I guess. I'm quite. I'm very like. I'm trying to be very, very precise with the productions, and like every mix down I do, every mix master I do, I know that I'm still getting better. It's like you're combing over something with a fine comb and refining it, or chipping away. It's like a sculpture, and you're getting like into the super duper minute fine details.
Yeah.
So like I feel like I understand those things better than I ever have, and when I'm making the music, I'm trying to utilize that and sort of try and be as precise with the execution of the sounds and the separation of the sounds in the mix, and with details. I want to have little fine details, but the problem is, of course, that you can have too many, or it can be too busy or too like heady, and it can lose a kind of a mass appeal.
Yeah.
So
do you I know you've obviously used all your equipment for producing, but do you go around with like a voice recorder and record sounds, like, because obviously you like a dark sort of sound? Do you use any of that in your music?
Oh, you mean ambient sounds? Like,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, honestly, I might, and I have, but not very often. No.
Okay. Right.
Anything that you want, you can get online somehow. Or I have this one. I have a couple of interesting plugins that actually come with or provide sort of background noise and different varieties of background noise, just the sound of an empty room with a fan off in the distance, that kind of stuff. Like, and yeah, that shit is awesome. I think to put in tracks, it's a great idea. I used to do it a lot more. Actually, yeah, I for a while I was doing that a lot. In fact, almost in every single track, I would always have an atmosphere layer that was basically just like,
almost white noise, but
the
not
sound of an empty warehouse.
Yeah.
You just stick a mic in the room and you just hit record, and it's just the sound of the air.
Yeah, it's like white noise almost. Pretty
much,
right?
White noise is white noise is all the frequencies all the time. White noise is white noise is like a super duper harsh
noise. Okay.
Full sound, whereas the ambient sound is more of, it's just an atmosphere.
It's like a reverby sort of thing, right?
But you're not running any sounds through it.
No,
you're not sending your snare into this atmosphere layer. It simply is just the sound of like the sound of a tunnel with no cars driving through it. But the wind is coming through it a little bit, and it has a natural drum.
It has a noise.
And it'll often have a key. And so I'm always very, very, very mindful about that. I'm always listening to every single sound that is in the mix, and I'm like, does this sound have a pitch to it? Because almost every sound does, even a snare or it certainly kicks. All sounds have an inherent, root note, a fundamental. So I'm listening into what that is for each sound, and then making sure that I tune those sounds so that they're all sympathetically interlocked.
Yeah, I record the dishwasher.
Yeah, fucking absolutely. In fact, clanging sounds of household items make excellent layers for snares or percussion. Or
like when I've done my my short hats, and they're all 16 beats. I've used a wooden spoon against a colander before. To get that
absolutely.
Yeah,
totally, man. Yeah, for sure. One of my favorite hi-hat sounds that I did a super duper long time ago was a pair of scissors. More like a shaker. It was more like a shaky egg kind of sound. I have.
That's cool, man.
That's a very useful sound. But yeah, just a pair of scissors, like just like, and just sliced up the best, 2 or 4 chickas.
Chickas.
And it was like, yeah, and you bring that in like 32 bars after the drop, and it's like, oh, the whole fucking track just lifted up again.
So how long do you sort of normally spend on a track from start to finish? Do you have like a base set template? Because some people do, but some people like going back to art again. Some people like a blank canvas and create a whole new project, depending on their mood, their emotion, and that sort of thing,
Yeah, I mean, sure, I start from scratch every time, for sure. Yeah. And then, I will often just mash a preset selector because I don't even know what the fuck I'm looking for. And let's go, and what does that sound like? Okay, yeah, let's work with that. So, I mean, I have a template project in Logic with all of the necessary, and Ableton. I use Ableton and Logic depending on my approach or what's going on. And we can talk about that if you want. We're going to be talking for hours if that's allowed. I don't know.
We might have to do 2 episodes. How's that? We'll do episode 1 and episode 2.
Fine. I'm okay with it. I'm okay. So what was I saying? Yeah. So, you know, either Logic or Ableton, I have template projects in those, and then they just have all of the necessary software infrastructure built into those projects so that all of this shit works correctly.
Yeah.
Because this is a machine. This whole thing is, it's a piece of software, hardware integrated. It's very, very integrated. And that's really like, that's my crowning achievement, is this. Because this is a machine that works, and you have a way of interacting with it as if you were driving a car or piloting a spacecraft. And when you're using the system correctly, then you're able to create rapidly. So in answer to your question, anywhere between 1 full day and maybe 4 is my production time on a track. If I get really lucky, I'll start and finish in a day, mix, mastered, everything. But I mean, that doesn't happen every time. But as long as I'm able to like have a proper push at it with no interruptions in a you know, solid chunk of time, like an 8-hour chunk, that's a day. Then like 1, if I'm really lucky, 2 a lot of the time, 3 or 4 most of the time.
For sure. So is this like your hobby, or do you integrate this in your normal working day life? Or
I do integrate a little bit of music and audio into my day job.
Awesome.
My day job is video production, and really like my whole career. I'm trying to combine it all together in one. That's sort of my ultimate goal, although there's nothing specifically concrete about what that exactly would look like. But in addition to making music, electronic music, like I also do the visual equivalent of that, in terms of video production, motion graphics, shooting, editing.
Super cool.
Media. I'm just a completely fully featured media producer. And that's what I can actually get paid to do. And so sometimes I get to do a little music for these videos that I make. Like I make promotional sizzle reels for, I work for a visual effects training school called Think Tank. And they're based in North Vancouver, and we have an online school. So I do a lot of video production for them. And I actually so I did this album called Lokisphere, which you could find on my Bandcamp. And it's a triple album of ambient soundscapes, ambient music, which I made for the school to accompany a bunch of their learning videos that have these like super long time-lapse videos where it's like sped up.
Yeah, I like that sort of thing, man. I'm a media geek for sure, you know, just as much as a music geek. And I think, you know, creating videos to go with that sort of ambient music is pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky, very, very lucky to have been able to do that. And it's not like I was being paid to make the music per se. I was being paid to do the job, which was to get the videos looking and sounding nice for the students. And Joe, the owner of the school and a dear friend of mine, was just like, yeah, man, I love it. He was well into it. He encouraged me to do it. And so, I made all this music for these. Basically what would happen was like every week a new class would be rolling out while we were building the course. And it was like, hey, you know, there's a time lapse in this one. Can you make a piece? So it was really cool. I would just hop up over here and I would just jam out for like an hour. I just come up with something, and ambient is fun and I think easy because you don't have to have that super duper precise production value like you do when you're making beats. You know, you can just let it float. So I would just crank out these little ambient ditties, and I mean, really made some of the best music of my life. And because there's no stress about making it. It was a fun exercise, and every time I'd come up with something really nice. I would be extremely honored if you checked any of that shit out.
Oh, we will for sure.
Definitely, man.
Find Lokisphere and stick it on. There's a lot of it. It's like 3.5 hours. So
What we'll do, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, John. What we'll
right.
do for sure, once we get the podcast up, we'll put a whole load of links up for your streams and things for you.
Cool, man.
If that's okay.
No. I mean, it's more than okay. It's what I wish people would do for me, because I don't do it for myself very well.
I think there's in the music industry. I think we should be. A lot of people don't really help each other out, do they? I mean, in the UK, it's very bitter, but
yeah.
Here,
I think it's the same here in a different way. I mean,
Yeah.
it is and it isn't. People are and can be very supportive here, but also people are looking out for themselves. And how much do I help other people? I mean, I try to. If people ask me for help, I'm really up for helping them. And people sometimes send me their mixes and like, what do you think of this? Or like any feedback. And I really love it when people do that.
I think it's cool that you're teaching as well, man. That's really cool. That's a great achievement as well.
Well, I want to do more. I mean, I haven't actually been doing very much recently at all. I used to make tutorial videos, or I made a few. There's actually a new Discord channel just opened up. Do you know what Discord is?
Nope.
Yeah, I know the website roughly, I think. Yeah.
Well, it's more like it's a sort of a chat system, group channels. Anyway, there's this new Vancouver electronic music producers Discord that is just opened up, and you should hop on and join it. It's like, people are trying to find alternatives to Facebook, and I think Discord could be it. It was initially made for gamers to hang out together.
Okay.
And it's like when you've got a Discord account and you're playing a particular video game, Discord knows what video game you're playing, and it says like so and so is playing this game, and then other people are playing that game. But then it sort of it kind of expanded and to work with all sorts of different professions or interests. So people that do motion graphics or video production or have Discord channels. Anyway, the point of that was to say, people are like asking, how do people approach mastering? And I'm like, you know what? I need to make videos again. I need to make instructional videos because I definitely want to share everything that I know.
Oh, that would be amazing. Like, I think you should definitely, if you find the time anyway, you should definitely.
That's the problem.
I think a lot of people would like to watch those kind of, videos.
Yeah, I certainly would.
Yes.
Yeah. No, everyone does. Everyone does. I just want to I want to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do it once. I don't want to be one of these people that has to crank it out all the time.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people sort of fall, right? And that's when I come back to the question when I asked you, do you have a template? Because a lot of people have a basic template, and I wouldn't say a lot, but I know people, I'm not going to mention names, and they have a basic template, and it's just...
They're like using actually the same sounds, like the same kick and snare and hi-hat sounds and the same bass sounds and the same pad sounds.
Quantity, not quality.
Yeah, I'm not ever going to do that.
Nah. But again, with the equipment stuff, I mean, you've got a lot of fucking equipment there, man.
Yeah, I do.
we were going to ask.
You're not actually even seeing all of it right now. I mean, there's a bit. But I mean, compared to some people, and like some people here in Vancouver, this isn't as much as, say, Dave King, Long Walk Short Dog. Do you know him?
I don't know. No.
How the fuck do you guys not know him?
I'm writing all this down.
Vancouver's fucking weird, man.
Yeah.
Vancouver's a weird place. Honestly.
Sorry, what was his name? So I can write that down, John.
Dave King is his real name.
Dave King.
Yeah.
Long Walk Short Dog, lowercase, no spaces. As in, go take a long walk off a short dog.
Short dog, yeah.
Long Walk Short Dog.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want like the next person to speak to on your show, it should be him.
Perfect.
It really should be him. A, he has more gear than me. B, he's much more talented than I am. C, he works way fucking harder, plays way more gigs, and is way funnier. He is so funny.
Well, I think you're funny.
I'm all right. He's funny.
No, man, that's it. Thanks for the heads up, because we will definitely try and get in contact with Dave.
Please do. I love Dave.
Awesome.
Anyway, Dave has more gear than this. So.
Well, you have plenty there, and I think
I have enough. And actually, I don't want any more now.
Do you use it all? Just
to
yeah, you do use it all, eh?
Of course, yeah. Do you know what all the buttons do? Some people ask.
Yeah, do you know what every knob?
What does that one do? What about that one? Do you know what that one does?
Can I touch it? Can I touch it?
Oh, I always say yes.
I noticed you got a bit of Euro rack there as well.
I do, yeah. I have a little bit of Euro rack. So have you watched any of the live streams that I did, or is it only through Instagram that you found me?
Personally, I haven't looked at your live streams. I apologize. I've just been on Instagram.
No, that's okay. I mean, you know, I stopped. I was doing regular live streams for about 2 months from when COVID started.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And you can still find all of those on either my Facebook page or on my Twitch. But there's probably about, I guess, 50 of them, and they're, you know, 1 hour live jams. So I just hop up and
nice. We will definitely share some of those. I got to admit, when the COVID thing kicked off, I did a couple of live DJ streams, just set up my webcam in my kitchen and did a couple of mixes back home to my buddies with some vinyl. And I just found there was so many live streams happening on my social media that I almost swited off. I almost got to the point where I was like, I don't even want to watch another live, and I stopped doing them. I didn't do any. I did 3 at the beginning. I was just like, I just don't know how much time I can put into trying to find the best ones out of all the big live streams. But
I agree, man. You are absolutely right about that.
Like I said, though, we will share some of your links. Like I said,
thanks, man.
We definitely will. 100%. And now I want to go and watch them all. And I guarantee you, this afternoon I'll be watching 15 live streams.
I would be amazed if you watched more than 4. They're anywhere from 45 minutes to 3 hours in length.
Cool. Yeah.
You can just like skip through them, you know, or if you could put it on if you're doing something.
That's what I end up doing, and that's what I sort of, you know, with the whole video side of it. You know, for the most part, for me with the live streams, I wasn't watching the video. I'm not going to dedicate the time to an hour to watch it all the way through. I'll do what you said. I'll skip through some of the video to watch, but generally, I'm plugging it into my speaker and I'm listening.
And you're putting it on.
You're putting it on, right? Because, you know, to dedicate 3 hours to sit and watch a show, I will do it.
No one's going to do that.
I will do it when it's like really fucking good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's someone really important to you. Yeah, exactly.
And you know,
I'm not giving anyone that time. Like, I don't have that time. No
exactly. But to make the video and have it out there for the odd person that does want to sit down and watch a 3-hour video, then that's game on. Let's make that video, right? Yeah, and again, we sort of said with the podcast, some people might not want us to have the video. We are going to start putting some of these up on YouTube and have a little channel so we can have the videos too, if our guests are into that. And I even said about that, some people don't even want to watch the videos. It's a podcast. They just want to listen. But some people do. And for the odd few people that do, who want to see who you are, you know what I mean? They do want to see your face. Then having the video available, I think, is awesome.
I'm totally fine with that.
And obviously, doing video production and editing, you've got all the equipment to do a pretty good one.
I do. Yeah. I mean, I think my live streams looked amazing.
I can't wait to see them. Yeah, I will. 100%.
Multi-camera, four different camera angles.
Nice.
Also some lighting and visual stuff. Like I have, like for example, I have some strobe lights behind here that I can control by waving my hand over this device.
Okay.
And so I can basically do a hype thing and the strobe lights go off.
Yeah.
And this logo triangle thing there.
Yeah,
I see that. That's like a light. There's an RGB strip around it.
Nice.
And so I have like tempo controllable through an iPad app and Ableton Live. Ableton Live is basically driving that thing.
Okay.
And those strobe lights.
That's awesome.
I've got a party to go to later, but I might say to the missus, I've got something more important to watch. Do.
Like a real party in meat space with real people?
Kind of, yeah, with a bit of social distancing, obviously. But I said I'm going to say, well, I think I've got 3 hours, maybe the full evening. I'm going to be occupied watching some interesting videos on music.
So yeah, I guess I still want to talk about equipment myself. Like I said, I'm not very experienced in the gear, but if you were to turn around right now and pick out your favorite piece of equipment, which one would it be? Which would be if you only got to keep one of those things right now?
I've already asked myself and answered this question to myself many times. And I will go and get it, and I will bring it. I will bring it here so we can, have a look at it.
Let's bring it on.
Okay,
Is that
right? So this is the Teenage Engineering OP1.
Oh, I know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
have
great.
no
Okay.
idea
Yeah.
what that is.
So this is my desert island synthesizer. It's this.
Okay.
If I could only keep one of these things, which would it be? This. Am I allowed to have a laptop?
Yes, I would say you're allowed a
It's
laptop.
definitely
100%.
this.
Yeah, yeah,
It's 100% for sure this.
yeah.
And the reason that is because this can make any sort of sound, and it sounds fantastic, and it is weird and funky and interesting, and it's just kind of bizarre in many ways, and the sounds that you can get out of it are very broad, but very
Okay.
very distinct, very interesting sounding. I would like to make an entire album with only this.
Really?
Oh yeah, and you could. You
And
really
sorry,
could.
what is the actual name of it again?
So the company is called Teenage Engineering.
Teenage Engineering.
And
They're
it's quite
Swedish.
expensive as well.
They're very
Yeah,
expensive.
they've got some expensive gear.
They do, but they have a new thing called the OPZ, which is much less expensive because it doesn't have a screen. And you'd think, well, fuck me, how can you do anything useful with this? There's no screen. But it's like they are design gods. These guys, like they are absolutely on the bleeding edge of innovative tech design.
But you do need your laptop. It's not a standalone unit. You couldn't just
No.
no.
You don't. The only
okay.
reason I say that I want to have a laptop, if this is because it's not particularly good if you want to be like multi-track record. It does have a 4-track recorder in it, and you can record 4 different tracks, and you can do some rudimentary mixing. But obviously, you're not going to be producing like the fucking slammers just on this.
Just with this.
If I have a laptop and an audio interface and I can record this into Logic,
Then you could do
Ableton,
everything with that.
and then I can do a little, mixing and post-processing in Logic. Then it's got everything. Drums, synths. It has a radio in it, so you can sample from the radio. So obviously sample playback, but there's some very interesting effects. Like my favorite thing to do on this thing is, so I've engaged the drum machine, and then I'm just going to choose like drum kit, 7. And of course, you're not really going to be able to hear it very well, but there's an arpeggiator on it. Okay, so I turn the arpeggiator on, and then I just put the hold on, and I'm like, I'm just going to push 3 random notes. This thing is now like a little beat for me.
Yeah.
I can be like different beat.
You know what?
Some really interesting polyrhythms and.
Yes, I would like to look into that little bit of kit a bit more. It looks very interesting.
Yeah, that is honestly the most fun and interesting piece of gear that I own.
And how long have you had that one? When did you buy it?
A friend of mine who didn't like it very much sold it to me for a song 3 years ago. Thanks,
nice.
Trevor. Lost, dude.
I'll be honest, I love the Matrix Brute and the Octatracks behind you there. They are standing out to me. I mean, for me, I had a lot of equipment, and I do a live act, and I've narrowed it down to a Moog and some other stuff as well.
What's the Moog? What do you have?
I've got the D-Fan, man. I think that is just...
yeah. I've never used that. Is it awesome?
I'm a bit I'm a bit of a geek, and I research into it, and that for me is the one that does what just does. Yeah,
I've never even like clapped eyes on it physically. I've seen pictures, obviously. Like, does it have multiple outputs so you can have your kick and your snare and hats going to discrete outputs?
Yeah, you can set the velocity on certain hits. It's only an 8-bit one sort of thing, but it's you can obviously introduce Euro rack to it as well.
It is a Euro rack.
Yeah,
it's a bridge, a Euro rack bridge. I actually recently sold my Mother 32. I was just never using it, and I have a Moog Voyager back here, so I have that Moog sound.
Nice,
because it is a sound.
Yeah,
they really do sound distinct, which is a difficult thing.
So would you base your tracks on? What equipment would you base like your kicks, the main fundamental of the drums?
Yeah, I mean, it's all on the Analog Rhythm Mark II. Plus this thing, that thing I just demonstrated to you. Yeah. I'm always doing my percussion with this, pretty much all the time. That's in there like that somehow. But the Analog Rhythm is where I do my drum kit designing.
Yeah.
I like synthesis. I don't particularly love diving through a list of samples, but sometimes it's exactly what you need. And the analog rhythm is great for that, because each voice has a synthesis engine and a sampling engine together, so you can mix the two. So if you're like designing your kick drum, you know, you'll have a synth engine kick, and that'll, for example, provide the majority of the low, you know, below low mid-range and below the pure subby energy,
rumble,
maybe. But you want like a slap or an interesting upper mid-range kick, and like there's a sample that's really great for that, and you smash those two together and you pitch them correctly. It's so important. That's my one of I've got loads and loads of big tips if you want, but one of them is like, if you're layering sounds, you got to make sure that the pitch between those two sounds is the right relationship. Otherwise they fight each other, because the waves are doing this, you know, and then like, and one of them's at a faster frequency than the other, and at points they're meeting in phase and they're accentuating, and other points they're meeting out of phase and they're squashing themselves, they're sucking the energy out of each other. Whereas if you're tuning the fundamentals of your sounds appropriately, they don't all have to be in the same pitch, but if they're in a harmonically sympathetic pitch to each other, then they work together and they boost each other.
Yeah, it also depends on like what you're trying to make as well, because you hear a lot of techno nowadays. A lot of it is detuned. It's very, very distorted.
Sure, and if that's the sound you're going for, then that's fine. It's just ultimately like, you need to understand why things aren't working and when things are fighting with each other, when your system is broken. And in my opinion, shit, like, it's not to say like you have to have everything melodically you know, nicey, and it sounds beautifully melodically major key, whatever. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's just simply that if you're making a sound and you're layering two sounds together, you need to pay attention to how the pitches of those two sounds are interacting with each other.
That sounds fucking wicked, man. I mean, for talking to little devices, for me, I've got a little Korg Volca keys. I love that little piece of kit, man.
Yeah, I've never actually used one of those. It's the Volca keys. It's not the Volca FM. So what exactly is it? Emulating a Rhodes keyboard or an electric piano, or what is it?
I don't know where it's actually really emulating. I know the FM is obviously a different kind of breed, right, for the FM synthesis sort of thing. But for the keys, I mean, I can do acid sounds on it. I can do just like pads, normal pads, and sort of just chords and stuff like that. I mean, I use the BeatStep Arturia Pro. You can play the keys on that. You can play.
So you're sequencing the Volca keys with the BeatStep.
Yeah, because you can play notes as well, like in live mode. You know, in live motion.
It'll send pitch CV. And then how are you mixing all your stuff together? You have a hardware mixer, or is it going to a sound card and you're mixing?
I have a hardware mixer, and I used the fundamental setup of the bass of a track if I'm playing live will be, I have a Korg Electribe Sampler 2. And
those are good.
It's a pretty fun bit of kit, man.
People love those,
And I'll do all my own samples in Reason. I use Reason and Logic.
Cool.
Patch the two together because I think they're made by the same developer.
Well, no, they're not, but they use Rewire. I used to work exactly that way. Reason rewired into Logic. Logic is now an Apple product. Reason is propeller heads.
That's it, propeller heads.
But you can use Rewire, and you can basically slave Reason to Logic. But it's all the audio will send from Reason into Logic's aux channels, and then you can do mixing.
For sure, So I use Logic for certain things. I use Reason for the fundamental stuff. But I mean, the Korg Electribe will be my basic main structure of a track, and then it will be, you know, obviously the other synths, my DFAM, keys, and I've got the Behringer TD3.
Oh, you got the new Behringer 303 clone. How is it? You like it?
Quality, man. I mean, Craig, you've watched YouTube videos as well, haven't you? It's very, very similar sound. I don't think there's anything far apart. I mean, obviously, you're not going to get the same sort of sound as the original 303. But what's your take on Behringer doing all the copies and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of a contentious issue, actually. Some people see them as an evil corporation, and maybe they are. this guy Uli Berenger is some kind of maniac. But also, I have read about his philosophy surrounding what he's doing. Supposedly, his philosophy is that he wants to bring music to the masses. Like, he wants to, like, his aim is to make the products affordable and high quality, and he's been doing that. And he's been doing that by being an extremely shrewd businessman, being a capitalist and making fuck tons of money, because he owns Music Group and this company that they just own a fuck ton of stuff. And they own a lot of the thing is that they now own a lot of the manufacturers that make the high quality components. For example, oh my god, shit. Okay, it'll come to me. They're another mixing console manufacturer. They recently bought Midas. So they bought this company Midas that make high quality mixers, and so now they're using they're not like the same preamps, but they're nearly the same preamps, and they're designed by Midas in their mixers. So for example, my primary mixer in this whole system is a Behringer X32.
Oh, nice.
What do I think about Behringer? I think they're making amazing products. They're priced incredibly well. They sound fantastic. They're absolutely killing it. But there was some issue with they did basically make a kind of a weirdly anti-Semitic tweet photo thing on social media.
I saw that a while back.
So their politics have come under intense scrutiny recently. I think they did actually apologize.
I'm surprised they did it too, because it was just it was just a weird thing to do. It was like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Right?
It was a cartoon caricature of this guy. Fuck, I've forgotten his name.
Was that the cork?
Yes, the cork thing. No, but it was to do with that. That's right. He's
a synth designer. He's a boutique synth designer that has, has a reputation in the community of being, sort of high quality
guru, right?
Yeah, boutique shit. And I can't remember now. I would have to.
It was Brad. You're right. They made it look like it was a little Volca size kind of thing, but it was called the cork, wasn't it? I think you're right.
The cork
Brad.
sniffer.
The cork sniffer.
That's it. Yeah, I remember seeing it online when I was reading about something like it. It popped up on my news.
I can't remember who the guy was that he was like.
I've forgotten his name.
Yeah,
I'd never really heard of him.
No, me neither. But like I said,
yeah.
I read the article and I was like, okay, and everyone got a bit upset about it.
I think basically it was the cartoon drawing of the guy. It was a bit of a I think people were likening it to those kind of nasty drawings that the Nazis would have made about Jews in their pamphlets in the 1930s. That kind of stuff, gnarled, miserly Ebenezer kind of vibe in the cartoon style. It was weird. So how do I I don't know.
Equipment wise, I think like you said,
shit.
They're making some amazing stuff at some unbelievable prices. And yes, some of it, when we checked out the 303, because I haven't seen Brad's personal one, but I went and checked out their 303. The build quality on some of their stuff isn't necessarily the best.
No,
but it's not
because
they
gotta cut corners.
They gotta cut the corners.
Affordable as they have.
But like you said, the sound that you're getting out of it for the price, it's good. And if you can live with the knob being a little bit plasticky feeling or a little bit looser,
the quality on an original Roland 303 is not that great.
I'm sure.
No, I mean it was made as a cheap product.
As a bass guitar. Basically.
Yeah, it was supposed to replace a bassist.
Yeah,
and it started an entire movement. I got to make an admission to you guys. I don't really care for the sound of a 303 very much.
Oh, really?
It's a very contentious opinion to have.
Yeah, no,
I don't say it often, but I feel like being honest with you guys, I actually don't dig the sound of a 303.
Really? See, I love that.
Ever used it in the track, not once.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion, man.
Yeah,
whatever.
100%.
I mean, for me, it works for me, but sometimes I think, but I'm just a bit of a geek, man. I'm like, I'll use it for a bit, and I'm like, I want a new piece of equipment now. Like, I want another.
I would highly discourage that. I'll tell you that, man. My advice for you, I don't know how long you've been playing with hardware, but is if you can invest in something deep and complicated like the Octatrack or one of the other electronic things, and then learn the shit out of it, because it they are so multifunctional that you could spend, years studying it and learning how to use it, but you can get astonishingly good and quick with it. I feel like those machines are like arcade machines.
Yeah, I've never played with Octo.
Yeah, I mean, there's a muscle memory thing going on here because there's some menu diving and shifting. You have to like button combinations and stuff like that to achieve what you're trying to do. But I've seen there's one act that I saw that totally blew me away. He's called Headless Horseman.
Oh, I love Headless Horseman, man. Yeah,
I mean,
SNTS.
have you seen him on that gear? It's just nuts.
Man.
And like he moves so quickly and so skillfully, and it's just incredible to watch him. So he's probably one of the best examples of how to use that shit.
Would you say he'd be up there on one of your favorite artists or not DJs, but artists that you would like to sort of watch and follow nowadays?
I mean, I would certainly say that he has been one of the most impressive live acts that I've ever seen. Certainly on, I saw a couple of Boiler Rooms before, and then they brought him to Vancouver twice, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I went to those gigs. They were great.
I think for me, the two guys actually that were really good were a duo called Karen. It's a guy called Blauen and a guy called Pariah.
Oh, right. Yeah. I've sort of heard those names.
And
Berlin types, right?
Yeah, Neil Lundstrom as well.
Yeah.
They're really fucking good. They're sort of they'll play a live set with Eurorack, and it's pretty fucking cool. But yeah, Headless Horseman, man, is cool.
Yeah, no, he's a don for sure. Another guy that I've been quite interested in recently, who was absolutely slamming the COVID live streams, is Colin Benders. Have you heard of him?
Colin Benders.
Colin Benders. Go and find his Twitch or Facebook. He's been live streaming like several times a week every week since COVID started, and he has a huge following now. And it's all modular. Like he has this fucking huge amount of modular gear, and he's making the most slamming awesome techno music, and it's all improvised, and he's just like making it up as he goes, and he's talking and explaining things, and
that's cool. I like that he's talking while he's doing it rather than just doing it. He's almost explaining what he's doing.
Yeah. Oh no, he does explain what he's doing.
Awesome.
It's extremely complicated. Like,
yeah.
I don't understand most of what's going on.
What's his name? I'm gonna check him out.
Colin Benders.
Colin Benders, eh? That's like a guy I've seen on YouTube. He's called Look Mum No Computer.
Oh yeah, that guy's a legend.
That guy, and he just makes everything up, and I'm like, he
literally makes his instruments.
Exactly. Yeah, he made a what was it? A Furby organ.
A Furby organ. He did like a Sega Mega Drive polysynth. Game Boy synths.
He did the electric guitar, an electric synth guitar. Did you see that one?
I don't know about that one.
Oh, so he takes an electric guitar and he puts it as the synth, and then the strings are his triggers for the synth.
Cool.
It's amazing.
Like yeah. I think he did one with like a blowtorch, or he did.
Yeah, in a church. Yeah,
he's crazy.
Yeah, he's nuts.
Yes, he's nuts.
Utterly brilliant, and also hilarious.
What's your favorite venue or club in Vancouver? Would you say that you've played or you've been to?
I mean, I think I probably just have to say it's Open Studios.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be Open Studios. Unfortunately, Vancouver is extremely limited for venues now, and has been on that slope for a really long time. And I mean, it's got to be Open Studios because they've always done the right thing. They're always in it for the right reasons. People running it are always. I have a lot of respect for Mike and Ben, and they've been around for a long time and they've weathered so many storms. I hope they're going to be okay through this. And they've managed to, make a legitimate venue in this city with proper channels with local government and law enforcement, and they've managed to toe the line.
Yep.
So it's got to be that, really. For
me, that like their sound system is just, it's really,
it's good. It is good. There are problems in there sound wise because it's a concrete box and there's nothing. It doesn't matter how good the equipment you have in the acoustic spaces. It really doesn't. You could have the highest quality Function One, whatever. Like the most expensive boutique gear in the world isn't going to make a lick of difference if you're throwing 110 dB SPL full frequency dance music around in a concrete box.
100%.
100%.
Doesn't matter what gear. Yeah, no, for sure. Vancouver. Yeah.
Go on. Sorry, I was going to say the venue should be designed around the sound
I have always dreamed of that. That is my pipe dream, is to
100%.
get hired to build a venue and design the space
for the sound.
And I've done it in this little garage, but really it's just a mixing room. There's no actual acoustics in here because it's too small to have any useful acoustics. But when you go to a bigger space like that where there is an acoustic ringing,
yes, you can design the sound. You
can design that, exactly. Yes, and it's not like you want to make it totally dead. No, that's not the point. The point is to eliminate nasty standing waves,
100%.
Build up, and also taming the decay of the room.
Yeah.
Because the best dance music works in spaces like that when that dance music is produced very minimally and there's a very sparse arrangements, a lot of space in between the sounds, because they know that sound is ringing out. Like the decay time of your kick is added to when you put it into a room.
Yeah,
for sure. When I played in the UK, there was a guy that we a promoter that we used to go through, and he used to sort of get people engineers in to design the sound system, because he said the sound system is the most important thing, and he used to do it down.
Acoustic treatment is the most important thing.
Yeah, but like he's done it. He got it sounding so good, man. It was like, how can I put it? You go in some clubs and they're just redlining the mixer like crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's another problem. That's another huge problem. And then that has nothing to do with the sound system or even the acoustics of the space. You have this other factor that is outside of your control, except that it shouldn't be outside of your control. But yeah, redlining is extremely bad, and understanding gain structure and respecting it is extremely important for good sound.
For sure.
You want absolutely zero saturation. Like you want literally no harmonic distortion when you're amplifying that sound.
But yeah, he had what was one of the places, he had a underground sort of old war like bomb thing,
like a bomb shelter.
Yeah, that was all brick built, and it was underneath a pub. And
was it like was it a curved ceiling?
Yeah, was it?
Yeah. That's
what you want. You want spaces like that because it's an irregular shape. And when the sound ricochets off the edges, it goes in different directions and scatters.
For sure. And it was like that at Lightbox in London. That's underneath a bridge, and you've got them archways in London. Yeah. And what they do is they put, obviously, a door through each archway. And they mold, obviously, the sound to the room, and the sound system is so good, man.
Yeah,
so
that shit is fucking sick.
I've actually, I went to one, I'm going to bring it up, the Warehouse Project in Manchester a little while back. Yeah. Same thing, big arched, underneath train tracks, amazing sound. Man. And then actually, I was, we did an interview a little while back with a friend of mine called Stephen Spence, goes under the name of DCR. He had some friends in Bath, Somerset. So you know where Bath is.
I do know where Bath is, Somerset.
It's actually where I got married in Bath. I love Bath. Yeah,
beautiful.
So I got quite a few friends around there, and there was a few boys there that tried doing one. They tried opening it up as a studio, a club underneath in the tunnels, and then an art studio and a recording studio. So like a shared space, almost like the open studio concept, where you want to come and do a show, you can come and do the show. You want to do an art exhibition, come and do an art exhibition. You want to come and use the recording studio. And they got government funding, but I don't think it ever fully got underway. Yeah. I don't think they managed to get it kicked up. I think
the problem is you've got a bunch of ravers trying to organize a business.
Exactly, is pretty much what it was, mate, back then.
Fucking work.
Right?
I mean, I don't think I could do it. I'm no business.
Right.
I have no business acumen. I can't do that.
And we had a few boys volunteered time to help doing the building down below. And yeah, I don't think it ever kicked off, but if it had, it would have been an amazing venue. Like,
yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we just don't have spaces like that here at all. Or, you know, any of these old brick archways, you know, like we don't have any of that kind of heritage in our buildings and old industrial stuff. Shit just gets torn down and new stuff is built.
Yeah, and most of it wasn't built shape-wise. Most buildings here in North America are quite squarey, rectangular, right?
Exactly. They're all boxes.
Right, yeah. Other than churches, they seem to be quite nicely shaped.
Yeah,
and mosques.
Yeah. And you know,
churches and mosques.
I think those spaces were designed with acoustics.
Exactly. Churches 100% were. They didn't have amplification, so they designed the building.
A space where you could be heard just by speaking. I mean, that is some 100%. The Greeks were doing that.
Yes, mate. I totally agree. That's
agree
what
with
it was
that,
all
man.
about. And that's like
we go to an amphitheater, a real amphitheater.
Yes, actually, in Swindon, where I grew up, we had a mini one in a place called Town Gardens, and through every summer they used to put on free shows every Sunday. So I used to go down to this little mini amphitheater that was in these old Victorian rose gardens, and it was all set down. And it's right in the middle of the city too. And like, there's a little park there, and then there's houses like not far away. But they actually, when they built it, and it's been there hundreds of years, John, like fucking hundreds of years, man. When they built it, it was dropped down. There's grass banks for you all just sit on the grass banks, and then at the end's a nice amphitheater, right? You know,
the Romans were doing that shit. I went to one once, and I think in Cyprus actually, and it was uncanny. How there's this little circle right in the middle, and if someone is stood on that circle, doesn't matter where you're sitting around the outside of the amphitheater, you can hear them crystal clear, like they were 2 feet away from you. As long as
crazy, isn't it?
Quiet.
Yeah.
If they were to move away from that center point, all of a sudden you can't hear them at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's cool, man. Yeah. So have you got any new mixes coming up? Mixes and sort of events in the pipeline? COVID.
What events? I mean, you know, so we were doing a regular live stream. So my girlfriend Colleen and I were part of this crew called Soundproof. You know, like old school. They've been around for 20 odd years now. Actually, a very long running crew. So we were doing regular Sunday night streams for a bit, but we kind of got bored of that and stopped recently. So, I mean, in terms of events, no, I don't have any gigs coming up or any events or anything like that.
Could you've played in Vancouver though previously, right?
Oh yeah, sure. I played a certain amount in Vancouver, and really nowhere else. I don't consider myself very successful actually as an electronic music producer or DJ. I don't have a lot of releases, and I don't have a ton of gigs under my belt. But in the last few years, I was getting some higher profile shows, really thanks to Goa Pete, a guy called Goa Pete.
Goa Pete.
Yeah. He's a gem. He was in the psytrance scene, is more in sort of house and techno event promotion, but he's been bringing like Dave Seaman and John 00 Fleming and Quiver and other names like that. And
Dave Seaman.
Dave and I are friendly. We chat.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Again, from back in the day, man. You know?
No, he's still doing it. You know.
I'm sure if I went through my collection right now, actually, I could find you some Dave Seaman tracks.
Yeah, I mean, you should.
More than a few, actually.
You should check out his label, Celador. They're doing great stuff.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Excellent. I mean, I think they call it progressive techno. And it's dance floor. It's deep and dark and interesting and danceable.
Yeah. He was always very kind of darker, I would say.
Yeah.
Right? You always have that kind of dark feel.
I'll tell you what, I think with all the equipment and knowledge you've got, John, I think I'll have to take some lessons off you, bro.
Hey, I'd be happy to. You know, I really do like helping people, and it's always very flattering to me if anyone asks my opinion about stuff.
For sure. I'm not into like I played the big clubs in London and stuff like that, and to be honest, it really didn't interest me. I'm more interested in investing in gear, producing. That's why I left DJing, because I was more into producing, right? And I think I'd rather be more expressive in that than trying to be all over social media and trying to be like, oh, look at me. I'd rather be like you are in your garage, just chilling.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what I've resigned myself to, is being, you know, the obscure guy in his basement doing stuff, because I'm never gonna get like that kind of notoriety, I don't think.
But you never know.
You never know, man.
We'll help you. We'll share some of your stuff for you, mate.
That's nice, man. Thanks.
How's that?
Sure, it's every little helps.
I love helping fellow musicians out, especially that, you know, especially with that setup that you've got.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, the setup is one thing, but it's actually being able to
use it.
really important. And
I would say so.
I do.
I just have a lot of respect for people that you know, dedicate their time into learning stuff like that, and
oh man,
you know, and doing that sort of thing. That's definitely my sort of, just definitely my thing.
Honestly, it's what my entire life is about. So much so that I really have no interest in having children. Because of it. No, I'm serious.
I don't blame you. I've got one. And
I'm sure it's not easy, you know, and I'm sure it's really fucking hard to actually focus on what you want to do for yourself.
100%, mate. That's it. Like, time-wise, to do other stuff, it is hard, because you do have to do. Mine's getting a little bit older now. She's 14, so she's getting to a point where she had
him young. Well, that's, you know what? That's another way, and that's not how my life turned out. But it's yours turned out, and there's plenty of life left in you.
Oh yeah,
lots more to do, and there's lots more time.
And that's like I said, I just got back into the DJ, and I hadn't done it for quite a while. I always had like a little. I sold my turntables when I left England, and then I had a controller. When controllers first came out, I had a few little DJ controllers. And then finally, just a little while back, I was like, oh, I'm just going to get turntables. So now I'm back on the turntables. So I've been doing quite a bit of that again, which is fun.
Yeah. So you have actual turntables?
Yes. I've got control vinyl, but I've still got all my vinyl from the UK.
Right. Oh, you brought all your vinyl over?
I bought all my vinyl. I probably, I reckon I'm around 1,500, 2,000 pieces of vinyl, maybe.
Jesus.
I got a few.
You had all that shipped out?
Yes, it was actually one of the reasons we ended up renting a shipping container, because I said to the wife, I was like, I'm not leaving the UK. I'll sell my turntables and that, which I wish I hadn't, because now I don't have Technics, and to get Mark IIs.
Oh, you don't have Technics?
No, I have Audio Technica, right?
Oh, we could get you a pair of Technics, mate.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, I sold a pair recently.
Really? What Mark IIs? Don't tell me.
1, 2, and a 3. One of them was a 3. I even still have one kicking around. Or do we give it back?
I tell you what, though,
there's a buy sell group on Facebook where people are selling secondhand stuff. You could get a pair of Technics without.
Oh, I know I could have, but you know what I did? I love Long and McQuaid, and I got my account there, and I wanted brand new. I didn't want to mess around and get used ones.
Yeah, cool.
And I had a little go on them, and for what they are, they're like less than half the price, right? And unless you're a scratch DJ, which I am not, I am not a turntablist. I'm not doing that. I'm a beat. I play house, and I can mix whatever. To be fair, I mix hip hop, I mix drum and bass, I mix whatever, because it's same fundamentals. But I'm not scratching. So for beat mixing, you don't need anything else, mate.
How do you find the action? Like, do you
no problem?
Do you twist the nipple? Do you drag the finger? Like,
I'm more of a twist the circle in the middle. I twist, and then I stroke.
Find that resistance to be like
perfect,
familiar. It feels the same as technique.
Yeah, and I've had a couple of people who haven't actually DJ'd before come over, and they've been able to pick up pretty quick on it again, unless you're trying to scratch. But I've got some new Concord styluses, and if you were a good scratcher, and I've got a couple of sets of slip mats, so I've got some nice thin ones. DJ Cuba.
You could manage.
You could manage. You would be able to. Right?
But they're not belt drive, right?
No, they're direct drive.
Direct drive. It's a magnet.
Yes. So
it's the same kind of tech.
It's the same kind of tech, but they're not the OEMs. So actually, they're OEM, but they're not super OEMs.
I don't actually know what that means. OEM.
Super OEM, it's like original something manufacturer, original equipment manufacturer.
Okay.
And if you were to go and look at any other turntable other than a Technics, they're pretty much all made by the super OEM or the OEM. Super OEM is where the direct drive motor in it is a really good Japanese one, and its torque is almost better than a Technics. Right. So you Reloop, Mixars, and a few other brands, Panasonic even do a super OEM, and then you get your OEMs, which are more like they're still direct drive, but it's not the best Japanese motor. So the torque isn't quite, it's right. Issue, but weight wise, like when you pick them up, mate, they feel as heavy as a Technics. You know what I mean? Like
you can always judge the quality of a piece of gear by how hefty it is.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, definitely.
100%. The only thing I would say is when I'm playing actual old school real vinyl, if you tap the top of the deck or not if you tap it, but if you touch it a little bit too heavy, you do get the sound come back through the stylus, whereas the Technics were a bit more of a metal top. These are a plastic top. But again, you're talking about, a third of the price, right?
Yep.
So...
Yeah, no, legit, fair play. I don't give a fuck what equipment anyone uses.
It's what you do with it.
I don't care anything.
Right.
Well, I mean, okay, unless you're totally faking it, but as long as what it comes out the speaker sounds good.
Exactly. It's what you're doing with it, right?
It's fine.
Exactly, right. Actually, go on, sorry. No, go back.
It's like for me, because like when I started DJing, I started with drum and bass on vinyl, and then everyone started getting into DJing, and I was like, okay, I want to get away from that now. I'll do producing. So everyone was producing and started producing, but they were just not, like we spoke earlier, knocking out tracks really quick with no real sort of structure. It was all an image sort of thing, and then that's when I got into hardware, and I was like, fuck man, I'd rather be into this instead of trying to, because I don't like the ordinary. I hate to be part of the common sort of scene, what everyone else is doing. I like to be the guy standing at the back, and be different. Like when I went to watch acts or watch DJs, I would be the guy in the corner watching them. I'd be enjoying myself, but I'd be watching everything he's doing. I'd be I'm pretty quirky like that, and I think that's just me, man.
It's really hard to be individual like that and also stand out and be recognized and noticed.
Extremely
difficult, because if you're trying to get some other organization to back you, i.e. a label, if you don't already fit into their aesthetic, and if you're not already doing what they're about, then my feeling anyway, my take on it is that they're probably not going to be interested in you. It's not sorry, you're not the right sound for us. Is
I think response.
You're right. And fair enough. I actually can't argue with that at all. So if you're trying to be yourself, your own true self, and you're really doing, something that is truly you, then it's very difficult to find, I guess, those like upper tier labels that have the clout and the reach and the following to recognize you as an artist. And
that's why I didn't really follow the big. I don't know, everyone loves Horton, everyone loves Carl Cox, but you say I like this. Like you look at Headless Horseman. They're not the really big standout guys. I like the deep underground guys that are really, they stand out for me personally.
Yeah, for me, it's especially considering the live aspect.
Yeah, for me, definitely. And that's why when I saw your equipment, I was like, I'm going to ask that guy to come on the show.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate that a lot. I have always felt that it's important to properly flex live, because I did come from a live, like a performing music background rather than a DJ.
Yes. Yeah.
So and that experience being in that band Karetsu just kind of like,
absolutely,
it's just completely, it's at my core. So there has to be a live aspect.
I'm looking forward to watching your live streams. Actually, I really am.
Yeah, man, definitely. I'd love to fucking meet up someday, man, and just learn some more shit. Every day's a school day.
Yeah, for me too, man. Really.
I can't be one of these people that be like, I know my shit, because to be honest, man, I really don't. Really,
there's never end. It never ends.
Exactly.
Literally, never ever ends.
Exactly.
I just wanted to mention, look up Sebastian Leger.
Sebastian Leger.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Fine. Yeah, okay. So for like amazing hardware, I think what he's doing is just phenomenal. Amazing like music. And Kink. Yeah. That dude is just an absolute beast, bomb legend.
And Stefan Bodzin as well.
Stefan Bodzin was hugely inspirational to me a few years ago, actually. His live setup and his touring live setup is extremely like streamlined, like that's a rig built for touring. One
Yeah.
synth, one custom MIDI controller, laptop, smashes it out, sounds perfect every time.
He uses a 37, doesn't he? And he has a
37, I think.
yeah, and he uses a box.
It's a custom, I think maybe Livid Instruments,
Okay.
but it's a custom MIDI controller.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that. Yeah, it's cool, man. I love that.
Fucking legit.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll check some of those out for sure. Well, I think we'll wrap it up.
Talking for nearly 2 hours here.
Yeah, man. Really appreciate you coming on, John.
Fuck yeah, man.
AKA Dark Arps, and we will definitely we'll share some links for you. We'll get that all up there. We'll send you an email once we've got this ready for you to sort of share if you want to post this podcast on any of your stuff.
Of course, I'm going to post it on my stuff.
Awesome.
What is your primary platform? Like how do people find out about what you guys do?
Brad should answer this. Brad's our little tech guy.
What, for the podcast or
yeah, we've got them on pretty much all of the formats, right, Brad?
Yeah, the main ones. Yeah, I mean,
but there isn't really like a web page or a Facebook page that people go to then go and listen to the podcast. It's like you go through Apple Podcasts.
We have an Instagram page at the moment.
Or Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, we're just starting out, really, and
right.
Yeah,
because we're like,
we're going to do a YouTube thing for sure. Haven't done a website. I haven't even thought of the website. That's not a bad idea, actually.
But yeah, we're just music geeks, really, man. Just want to hear people's stories. But yeah, to go back to your question, sorry. It's we use Anchor as a distribution thing, and
I don't know what that means. Anchor, what's that?
It's a distribution platform like Podbean or
for podcasts.
Yeah,
specifically for podcasts. I mean, I have no idea about this shit.
Okay, yeah. So you've got Buzzsprout, Podbean. You've got all these distributing platforms, and they put it out on like Google Podcasts and Spotify and iTunes and stuff like that. Instagram page, I've got to get around to the Facebook page and stuff like that. But
yeah, maybe you should just get a landing page where it's literally like, I guess whatever the URL is, and it's just you can immediately click on a thing to listen to the latest podcast on whichever platform.
Yeah, so they say the for the live RSS feed is really good from creating your own website. So I've got to look into that as well. I don't know. I'm not really clued up on that. But.
So not SoundCloud though. Like would I find you on SoundCloud?
I haven't made one, but I've got to make one. So
this is the thing. There's so much to do. This is kind of what I was talking about. It's fucking bamboozling.
It is. There's so much. So much time could be spent.
It fucks me up.
Yeah, man.
Thinking about how many different things you're supposed to satisfy.
Which is going to hit the most people? Which, like you say, which is going to be the
full-time job just managing 100%,
that. 100%.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, I obviously want to focus on my music, but doing this as well. I mean, I love doing this, and I love doing my music. I've got a release coming out soon anyway, but like.
Feel free to send that to me. I'd like to hear it.
For sure, yeah. And
but the thing is, you can't get really fucking good at the music without spending like almost all your time doing it.
Yeah, so I try and do a bit by bit. Like you say, it takes you a day to do a track. For me, it'll probably take. It depends really. Like, I've done a track in one evening.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and then sometimes I spent like 2 months on the track.
Exactly.
And it just depends on what mood I'm in. I haven't got producer block. Depends on the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great idea to take. Well, maybe I'm privileged to be able to say this, but to take breaks and to just not make music for a bit.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah,
it's good. Like periodically, just to you can step back and you can still like play around and learn shit. But you just not go into it being like, oh, I have to make a track. But if you were trying to like keep up with some release schedule, then that's completely different.
I don't try and keep up release schedule or anything like that. I just make it as I go, depending on how I feel, and then I find it is good to put if you had a bad day, it's kind of good to put that emotion to tracks as well.
Yes, absolutely.
It sort of gives it a bit more of a grittier sound.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah,
but
absolutely. I mean, of course, that's where all the energy comes from. Is
exactly
frustration.
It's like me and Craig were talking about rest in peace Andrew Weatherall as well. He's a very artistic guy, and what he did with music.
I mean, he was probably one of the most underrated, most influential names in electronic music
ever.
Oh, man, he was cool.
I mean, and the thing is, I know criminally little about him, but what I do know is that he produced Screamadelica, which was also one of my like desert island discs.
And actually, with Screamadelica, he actually found that band when they were totally like more of a punky kind of weird band.
He
right?
completely made them into.
He remodeled them into Primal Scream that we know. They weren't Primal Scream before Andy Weatherall at all.
I also had the pleasure of meeting and chatting with Darren Emerson.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Exactly the same thing for
right there. That's one of my all-time. I follow him on Instagram still. I love that guy. He's done, and again, you know,
I think we chatted for about half an hour or something in the back because I was warming up for him. I actually played a terrible set that night. It was no, I played after. At least I played after him.
Yeah.
You know what? And I'm sure he just left because I had a fucking shocker of a gig that night. But anyway, we chatted in the green room earlier, and it was like, wow,
that's pretty cool.
He was fun.
He seems pretty down to earth from what I've seen.
Lovely guy.
Yeah, Essex boy.
Yeah.
John, have you ever heard of there's one guy I met, and I went to a festival, and he was walking like through the actual rave in the park, getting a drink, and I was like, "Is that the guy?" And it was Rodad. Do you know Rodad?
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't know to see him.
No one knew him. They all went to the big acts like Carl Cox, but he was warming up. Anya Schneider was there, people like that.
Oh, man.
Anyway, so I was like, "Hey, man, can I just have a photo and have a quick chat?" He's like, "Yeah, okay." And no one even knew who he was. And
I wouldn't recognize him. I have no idea. How do you know what he looks like?
Well, I knew he was playing, and obviously I watched his Boiler Room, and, and I was like, and obviously his picture came in my head, and he looked exactly like the guy. And as soon as I spoke to him, he definitely sounded European, and I was like, "You're Rodab, right?" He went, "Yes, I am." And
sorry, where was this?
This was for Nick Van Truly's festival called The Social. And it was when he had Horton and Schneider. They had a thing called the Techno Barn, and they had Carl Cox playing.
Where was it?
It was in Kent in Maidstone.
When?
2015.
Okay.
2016. Right. I don't know if they're doing it anymore, but it was quite a big rave. I think they stopped because of the councils and stuff with the sound.
Sure, of course. It's getting harder and harder to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's getting really hard now.
Yeah.
Sad days. We haven't even talked about that, and I don't want to.
I think we should do an episode 2. I think we should maybe get you back on in the future, and we'll maybe even try and do a little review on some of your equipment. Would be kind of fun.
Sure, we could do all
plug
sorts
it in,
of things.
Plug it in, and make some noises.
There are many things that we could do.
Awesome.
There are many ways we could do stuff. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Right on. Well, thanks again, and we'll chat to you soon. And like we say, maybe we'll do an episode 2.
All right. Sure. Keep me posted. Great chatting to you boys. It's been fun. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming on board, buddy.
Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
And I've got this recording for you. I'll send it over.
Awesome. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, mate. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.